The first thing Elena saw after 5 years of darkness was her husband's hand wrapped around her sister's fingers. Marcus was whispering, "After Friday, nobody can take this away from us." Then Rachel looked up, saw Elena's eyes open, and went white. If stories like this hit somewhere deep, subscribe, like the video, and stay with me until the end. Because this one doesn't just break a heart. It burns through every lie built on top of it. The room smelled like bleach and cold air. Elena tried to move, but her body answered like it belonged to someone else. Heavy, numb, borrowed. A monitor beside her exploded into frantic beeps, and Marcus jerked toward the bed so fast he almost pulled Rachel down with him. "Elena?" His voice cracked in all the right places. Perfect husband. Perfect performance. "Oh my God. Baby, can you hear me?" Baby. He hadn't called her that in years. Or maybe he had. Maybe she had just been asleep while he said it to someone else. Rachel snatched her hand back like she'd touched fire. I'm getting the doctor." But before she turned, Elena saw it. A thin gold band on Rachel's finger. Not the same as hers. Worse. It was made from hers. Elena knew every curve of that ring. Her mother had designed it. A small emerald buried inside the gold where no one could see it unless they knew where to look. Marcus had slipped it onto Elena's hand in the rain outside a courthouse and promised, laughing and crying at the same time, "Now there is no version of my life that doesn't have you in it." Rachel was wearing that promise. The doctor came. Nurses rushed in. Bright lights hit Elena's eyes. Questions landed on her face before she could answer any of them. "Squeeze my hand. Can you hear me? Do you know your name?" Her throat burned when she tried to speak. Nothing came out except a dry, ugly sound that scared even her. "It's okay," the doctor said gently. "Don't force it. You've been unconscious for a long time." "How long?" Elena looked at the wall. The year on the digital board by the sink made her heart stop harder than the coma ever had. 5 years. 5 years gone. 5 birthdays. 5 winters. 5 summers. 5 years of her daughter growing up without her. 5 years for her husband to learn how to hold another woman's hand in her hospital room like it belonged there. Marcus started crying when the doctor said the words miracle and responsive and beyond expectation. Rachel cried too. Elena watched both of them and felt something colder than grief slide through her veins. Not surprise. Recognition. By the time the doctor cleared the room, Marcus was back at her bedside, wiping his face. "You scared me," he whispered. "You scared all of us." All of us. He reached for her hand, and Elena flinched. That hurt him. Or maybe it hurt his act. His jaw tightened for half a second before he softened again. "I know you're confused. There's so much you don't know yet." Rachel stayed near the door, pale and still, like she was waiting for a verdict. Elena looked at their hands. Neither of them were touching now. That told her more than if they had. The first person who felt real was the night nurse. Her name was Grace. Mid-50s, tired eyes, no patience for fake tenderness. She adjusted Elena's blanket, checked her pulse, then leaned closer when Marcus stepped out to take a call. "If you understand me," Grace said quietly, "blink twice." Elena blinked twice. Grace nodded once. "Good. Then I'm going to tell you the truth the slow way, because everyone else in this building is going to feed you whatever version helps them sleep." Tears filled Elena's eyes, before a single word landed. Grace lowered her voice even more. You were in a crash. Severe brain injury. They didn't think you'd wake up. Your husband was here a lot in the beginning. Your sister too. Then life changed around you. Life changed around you. Like weather. Like furniture. Like wives. Grace glanced toward the door. You have a daughter. Emma. She's 10 now. 10. Elena tried to swallow, but it felt like broken glass. 10 meant Emma had been 5 when Elena closed her eyes. 5 meant she still had baby teeth, cartoons, warm little hands that found her in the dark. 5 meant Elena had missed everything. The next afternoon, Emma came in. Elena knew her instantly. Even with the longer hair, even with the older face, even with the careful, guarded way she stood in the doorway, as if she'd been taught not to run toward miracles until they proved they were real. She had Elena's eyes. Marcus crouched beside her. It's okay, sweetheart. You can go closer. Emma took one step, then another. Rachel stood behind her with a hand on her shoulder. That hand might as well have been a knife. Hi, Emma whispered. Elena broke. Tears spilled down the sides of her face into her hair. She tried to lift her arms, tried to reach for her daughter. Her muscles trembled with the effort, but her body betrayed her again. Emma looked frightened. Not of Elena, of the distance between them. You look different, Emma said, and then instantly looked guilty. Rachel squeezed her shoulder. It's okay. You can be honest. Honest. Elena wanted to scream. Marcus smiled sadly. Mommy's been asleep for a long time. Mommy. Emma looked down. Aunt Rachel said maybe you could hear me sometimes. Aunt Rachel. Not Mom, but close enough to make Elena's stomach turn. Emma stepped forward at last and touched Elena's fingers with 2 of her own. It should have felt like heaven. Instead, it felt like getting your heart restarted with bare wires. I used to draw for you, Emma whispered. I put them by your bed. I don't know if they kept them. Elena shook with silent sobs. Emma looked up at Rachel, not Marcus, not Elena. At Rachel. As if asking permission to feel. And in that second, Elena understood something worse than betrayal. Replacement. That night, Elena didn't sleep. Fragments of memory drifted up and sank again before she could catch them. Rain on glass. A slammed door. Rachel crying. Marcus saying her name in anger, not love. The taste of blood. Headlights twisting sideways. Water. Water? When Marcus returned the next morning with coffee and that exhausted, devoted husband face, Elena stared until he finally looked away. He sat down and exhaled. I know what this looks like. Good, Elena thought. Then at least one of us does. He rubbed his hands together. Rachel was helping with Emma. With everything. After the accident, nothing made sense anymore. Bills piled up. You needed care. Emma needed stability. We all did what we had to do. What we had to do. The coward's prayer. Elena motioned weakly toward the tray table. Marcus brought the communication board the speech therapist had left. Rows of letters. Yes. No. Pain. Water. Her fingers shook so badly it took forever. W-H-Y. Marcus stared at the word like it had teeth. Because you were gone, he said quietly. Rachel came in halfway through that sentence and stopped cold when she saw the board. Because you were gone. Elena dragged her finger again. Sister? Rachel burst into tears on command. She had always been good at that. Even as a child, she could make adults hug her within seconds of getting caught. It wasn't like that, Rachel whispered. Marcus stood up too fast. Not now. Not now? Rachel looked at him with sudden fury. When exactly were you planning to say it? So there it was. Not confusion. Not a misunderstanding. A secret with a schedule. Grace came in then, and whatever was about to break open got shoved back into darkness. But Elena had seen enough. By the third day, she learned how people talked when they thought the patient was too weak to matter. Doctors discussed muscle response over her body like she was weather data. Social workers discussed long-term options. And Marcus discussed Friday. Always Friday. Friday in the hallway. Friday on the phone. Friday with Rachel in the hospital chapel, where Elena heard them through a half-open door while a therapist slowly pushed her wheelchair past. If the judge signs on Friday, it's done, Marcus said. Rachel's voice was sharp, low. And if she remembers? She won't. You don't know that. Marcus went quiet for a beat. Then we say she's confused. She woke up after 5 years, Rachel. Nobody's going to take her word over medical records. Elena stopped breathing. The therapist, Theo, pretended not to hear, but his grip on the wheelchair tightened. Rachel sounded afraid now. Emma's already attached. If Elena starts telling stories, they're not stories, Elena heard herself think. Marcus cut Rachel off. She can barely point at letters. Theo rolled Elena away before either of them saw her. In the rehab room, he shut the door, knelt in front of her, and spoke softly. If you need an ally, he said, nod. Elena nodded. He looked back at the door once, then leaned closer. Then you work with me, harder than you think you can, and you don't let them know how fast you're improving. For the first time since waking up, Elena felt something stronger than pain. Purpose. Rehab became war. Every step was humiliation. Every movement felt like dragging her body out of wet cement. She learned to stand with Theo bracing her hips while sweat soaked her gown. She learned to swallow without choking. She learned how much a human being can hate the sound of encouragement when it comes from the wrong mouth. Marcus loved dropping in during therapy. He'd stand at the door with flowers and concern, watching her fail like a patient investor checking on damaged property. Rachel came less often after that first week. Maybe guilt tired her. Maybe fear did. Or maybe it was hard to look at a sister you had slowly buried while she was still breathing. Grace was the one who brought Elena the box. Your personal belongings, she said one night, setting it on the bed. Hospital storage. It should have been returned earlier. Inside were pieces of a dead life. A cracked phone. A silver bracelet Emma had made from plastic beads. Her wallet, warped from water. And an envelope. The envelope was thin, cream-colored, official. Grace saw Elena's face change before she even opened it. What is it? Hands shaking, Elena pulled out a small ultrasound photo and a typed report. Estimated gestation, 11 weeks. Pregnancy loss associated with traumatic injury. The room vanished. All sound folded inward. There had been a baby. A baby no one had told her about. A baby she had carried into the dark without even knowing she'd had the chance to say goodbye. Grace sat on the edge of the bed immediately. "Elena." Elena made a sound then. Not a word. Something lower. Animal. Torn. She remembered the bathroom, the test in her hand, the laugh that jumped out of her before she could stop it. She remembered pressing both palms over her mouth and crying from joy because Marcus had wanted a second child for years. She remembered texting Rachel first. "I'm pregnant. Don't tell him. I want to surprise him tonight." She had texted Rachel first. Her sister. The one wearing her ring. Elena folded over herself, shaking so hard Grace had to hold her shoulders. It wasn't just the affair anymore. It wasn't just the years. They had stolen the moment before the crash, too. The happiness. The surprise. The baby. When Marcus came the next day, Elena had the paper waiting on the tray. He saw the ultrasound photo and froze. All color drained from his face. "You knew," Elena rasped. The word came out ruined, broken, but it was a word. Marcus stared at her like the dead had spoken. "Elena, you knew." Rachel had come in behind him. She heard Elena's voice and started crying instantly. That almost made Elena laugh. "What did you expect?" Elena whispered, every syllable scraping her raw. "That I'd wake up stupid?" Marcus ran a hand over his face. "I was trying to protect you." "From my child?" Rachel stepped forward. "We didn't know how to tell you." Elena turned slowly and looked her sister in the eyes. For a moment, Rachel looked 12 years old again, caught stealing lipstick and blaming the dog. Then Elena whispered the question that cracked the room in half. "How long?" Rachel's lip trembled. Marcus answered first, which was answer enough. "Elena." "How long?" Rachel sat down hard in the chair near the window, like her knees gave out. "Before the accident." Simple. Ugly. Before the accident. Elena felt the edges of herself go strangely calm. Not healed, not numb. Past the point where tears could do anything useful. Before the accident meant while Elena was planning birthdays and school pickups and future names for the baby she didn't know was already there. Before the accident meant dinner at Elena's table, Rachel laughing in Elena's kitchen, Marcus kissing Elena goodnight after touching her sister in secret. "How long?" Elena asked again. Rachel whispered, 7 months. 7 months. The affair was almost as old as the child Elena lost. Marcus started talking then. Excuses, loneliness, Elena working too much, Rachel feeling invisible. One mistake becoming 1,000. The language of weak people, trying to make betrayal sound like weather. Elena listened until he said, "We never wanted this." Then she found her voice enough to answer, "You wanted enough." That shut him up. Later that night, Grace helped Elena unlock the old phone. It was mostly dead, but not all of it. Cloud backups, photos, notes, security app. Elena had forgotten about the indoor camera over the back door. Marcus installed it after a break-in years earlier, and then ignored it so completely that he'd forgotten the footage still uploaded automatically. Her hands trembled as Grace opened the archive. The first clip they found was from 8 days before the crash. Kitchen. Late night. Soft yellow light. Rachel in Elena's sweater. Marcus behind her, kissing her like he'd earned the right. Elena watched only 7 seconds before telling Grace to stop. Proof. Not memory, not accusation. Proof. The second clip was from 4 months after the accident. Marcus and Rachel at the same kitchen counter. Emma's backpack in the background. A casserole dish on the stove. Domestic. Comfortable. Rotten. Rachel said, "She wouldn't have wanted Emma raised by strangers." Marcus laughed under his breath. "And you think a judge is going to give me trouble when her own sister's already living here?" Rachel touched his chest. "Just don't start acting guilty now." He kissed her forehead and said the line that made Elena's vision sharpen into ice. "By the time Emma calls you Mom without correcting herself, it won't matter what anyone thinks." Elena made Grace replay that line 3 times. Then there was a third clip. Recent. Very recent. Rachel standing by the sink, twisting Elena's ring on her finger. "What if she wakes up before Friday?" Marcus pouring wine. "She won't." "What if she does?" He didn't even look up. "Then we send her to Rosewood, keep the capacity hearing on schedule, and tell Emma her mother needs special care. By Christmas, the house is ours free and clear." Elena stared at the screen until Grace touched her arm. That was the moment everything changed. Not when she woke up. Not when she saw the ring. Not even when she learned about the baby. This. Because grief can paralyze you, but evidence gives grief a spine. Friday arrived dressed like a celebration. Marcus had arranged a small charity dinner in the hospital's donor hall. A disgusting little theater piece about hope and resilience and the wing he planned to fund with the proceeds from selling Elena's bookstore building. Publicly, he called it a tribute to his wife's strength. Privately, Friday was also the day of the emergency capacity petition. If Elena was judged incompetent, Marcus would keep full control over her assets, Emma's schooling, the house, all of it. And if the hearing went his way, he and Rachel would get everything they'd built on top of her grave. Theo got Elena into a navy dress Grace had smuggled in from the belongings box. It hung looser than it used to, but it was hers. Grace fixed Elena's hair. "You sure?" she asked. Elena looked at herself in the mirror. Paler, thinner, scar above the temple. Mouth still uneven when she tried to smile, but alive. "Yes," she said. The donor hall glittered downstairs. Soft lights, crystal glasses, people in expensive clothes pretending compassion was the same thing as character. Marcus stood near the podium in a charcoal suit, charming the room. Rachel beside him in cream silk, Elena's mother's pearl earrings in her ears. That almost broke Elena's self-control. Almost. Emma was there too, in a blue dress, looking lost in the middle of all the adults. When she saw Rachel, she drifted closer without thinking. That lit the final fuse. Marcus tapped the microphone. "Thank you all for being here tonight," he began. 5 years ago, my wife suffered a tragedy none of us could have imagined. Through unimaginable pain, our family learned what endurance really means. The doors opened. No one noticed at first. Then the room shifted. A glass stopped halfway to someone's lips. A chair scraped. Marcus looked up, and the blood left his face. Elena stood in the doorway with one hand on a cane, and Grace beside her like a witness sent by God. Rachel turned and made a sound so small it barely qualified as human. Emma stared. "Elena," Marcus breathed. For the first time in 5 years, the room belonged to her. She walked slowly, every step deliberate, every eye following. She could feel the weakness in her leg, the pull in her hip, the old terror of falling in front of people who wanted exactly that. She kept walking. When she reached the front, Marcus tried to touch her arm. She stepped back. "Don't," she said into the microphone he had left on. Her voice wasn't perfect. It was rough around the edges, as if every word had clawed its way out. It was still the strongest thing in the room. Marcus forced a smile that died instantly. "This isn't the place." "No," Elena said. "My hospital room was." A stunned murmur rippled through the crowd. Rachel whispered, "Elena, please." Elena turned to her sister. "Please what? Please wake up slower? Please forget the part where you slept with my husband while I was pregnant? Please thank you for raising my daughter in my house with my mother's earrings on your ears?" Rachel went white. The room exploded into whispers. Marcus reached for the microphone. Elena lifted a hand. "Touch anything, Marcus, and I play the video with sound." He froze. "Good." Elena looked out at the room. "You were invited here to celebrate resilience. So let's be honest about what survived and what didn't." Grace connected the phone to the projector. The first clip hit the screen. Kitchen. Night. Marcus and Rachel kissing. A gasp moved through the room like wind through dry leaves. The second clip played next. Rachel saying, "By the time Emma calls me mom without correcting herself." Marcus saying, "It won't matter what anyone thinks." Emma's face crumpled. "No," Rachel whispered. "Emma, sweetheart, listen to me." But Emma had already backed away from her. The third clip rolled. "If she wakes up before Friday, then we send her to Rosewood. By Christmas, the house is ours, free and clear." Marcus closed his eyes. He knew it was over. One donor stood up. Another reached for a phone. The hospital board chair looked like he might be sick. Marcus finally found his voice. "I made mistakes." Elena almost laughed at the insult of that sentence. "Mistakes?" she said. "Forgetting an anniversary is a mistake. Sleeping with your wife's sister while she carries your child is a choice. Planning to erase her after she wakes up is a choice. Teaching her daughter to replace her while she's still breathing is a choice." Rachel started crying. Real or not, Elena didn't care anymore. Marcus took a step forward. "I loved you." Elena looked at him and felt nothing but exhaustion. "No," she said quietly. "You loved being forgiven." That line landed harder than the videos, because it was true. Marcus had built his entire life on the assumption that Elena would always be the one who stayed calm, stayed kind, stayed bigger than the wound. Not tonight. Rachel dropped into a chair, covering her face. Then, the smallest voice in the room said, "Mom?" Everything stopped. Emma. Elena turned. Her daughter stood there trembling, tears running down a face that was somehow still both 5 and 10 at the same time. Did you really try to come back?" It was the cruelest question Elena had ever heard, because it came from pain, not doubt. Elena's own tears rose instantly. She opened her arms. This time, her body obeyed. "Every day," she whispered. "Every single day." Emma ran to her. When she hit Elena's chest, the force almost knocked Elena backward, but Theo was suddenly there behind her, steadying her without being seen. Elena held her daughter like someone pulling the last living thing out of a fire. Emma sobbed into her shoulder. "I thought you left me." "No." Elena kissed her hair, her temple, anywhere she could reach. "No, baby. I got lost, but I never left you." Marcus started crying then. No one cared. The capacity hearing never happened. The videos ended it before any judge could speak. The charity board cut Marcus off by morning. The sale of Elena's bookstore was frozen within hours. The hospital opened an internal investigation into the paperwork filed during her coma. Rachel moved out of the house before sunrise, leaving behind the pearl earrings, the ring, and a note Elena never read. Some endings don't deserve the dignity of explanation. The real work came after. Not revenge. Recovery. Nights when Elena woke shaking because she remembered rain and headlights and Rachel's face in the rearview mirror of memory. Days when Emma clung too tightly, terrified sleep might steal Elena again. Therapy. Lawyers. Silence at the dinner table where betrayal had once eaten beside them. But truth has a strange way of making pain cleaner. Months later, Elena reopened the bookstore under her own name. Not the name Marcus wanted on the papers. Not the family name Rachel had borrowed her whole life. Hers. Emma helped stack children's books in the front window. Grace came to the opening. Theo brought coffee and stood awkwardly near the history section until Elena hugged him. And on the first rainy evening after the store reopened, Emma looked up from the counter and asked, "Are we going to be okay now?" Elena looked around, at the warm lights, at the shelves she had fought to keep, at the daughter who had found her way back, at the empty chair where fear used to sit. Then she smiled, not because nothing hurt anymore, but because hurt had finally stopped being the whole story. "Yes," she said, "because no one gets to write our lives for us again." And for the first time since she opened her eyes, the future didn't feel like something stolen. It felt like something she had taken back with both hands. Tell me, if you were Elena, could you ever forgive them?